It's time for Waking Up with Wesley. Today's forecast and weather-wide discussion with WLOX First Alert Weather Senior Meteorologist Wesley Williams.
Hello there, South Mississippi, and thank you for waking up with Wesley. I'm Senior Meteorologist Wesley Williams. So in today's update, we are, of course, going to talk some about the fog, some about the rain and storm chances, but I also want to focus on temperature because, man, it's hard to tell what season it is when you step outside and feel more like spring than like winter. In fact, it was so warm yesterday. How warm was it, Wesley? It was so warm yesterday that we actually set a new record. So yeah, congratulations. You just lived through the warmest January 6th since the 1890s in Gulfport, Biloxi. It was tying the record high of 74 degrees in 1978. So we had 74 yesterday. We technically hit that during the 12 o'clock hour. We had 74 degrees yesterday and that tied the record high. So now there will be two record warmest January 6th on record, one of them in 2026 and another one back in 1978. Remember, it is January. What should we normally have? 61. That should be our normal high. And we are nowhere near that. We're blowing way past above normal and approaching record values. There's a look at the rest of the high temperatures yesterday. You see that 74 in Gulfport. We had 72 for a high in Biloxi, 74 in Moss Point, Pascagoula, 79 for the high temperature yesterday at Stennis in Hancock County, 80 for the high in Hattiesburg. So yeah, parts of southern Mississippi wound up hitting 80 degrees yesterday. There were also some 80s in parts of Louisiana. 82 was the high in New Orleans. I think they also set a record in that area. They had a high of 82 in Hammond and a high of 81 in Baton Rouge. So the question you might be wondering is, are we going to set another record today? And the answer is probably not. But that has nothing to do with our weather pattern and more to do with the weather records. Because you see, we're forecasting about the same temperature as yesterday, but the difference is that the record is harder to beat. Yesterday's record was 74, and if today's record were 74, we'd be calling today near record warmth. But yeah, today's record is 80. I doubt that we stand a chance to tie or beat that. That was back in 1982. Do you remember where you were, what you were doing on January 7th, 1982? I can tell you, you might have been sweating a little bit when we hit 80 degrees on that day. Back in the 80s. That is the warmest January 7th ever recorded in Gulfport, Biloxi since the 1890s. And the trend here is going to be for our temperatures to stay this warm until we get to a winter feel coming in this weekend. And we'll talk more about that now as we shift gears and get into the rest of the forecast. So first off, we start in the present. We step out the door this morning, you're waking up this morning, what do you have to greet you? For much of us, it's a dense fog advisory. You can see the areas that are impacted by that dense fog advisory until 10 a.m., which includes southern Jackson, southern Harrison County. It also includes the entirety of Pearl River and Hancock counties. And again, that's till 10 in the morning. We've also noted that there's actually been a breaking update this morning that I want to bring to you. There have been additions to this advisory just to our east. So you'll notice that even though our dense fog advisory on the Mississippi coast goes to 10 in the morning, there's actually been an issuance of another dense fog advisory in coastal Alabama, and that one goes till noon today in southern Mobile County near Bayou La Battery and Dauphin Island, as well as southern Baldwin County, Alabama, near Orange Beach, Alabama, and Gulf Shores, Alabama. So if you're traveling east, maybe you got some beach plans today on the coast of Alabama. It's going to be a foggy day. I mean, it might not clear until noon. In some cases, it might linger into parts of the afternoon, but a dense fog for much of the morning. But you come across our coast, and right now the expectation is for this dense fog advisory to expire at 10 in the morning. There might be some nuance to this, though, so I do want to give you a first alert because we do expect foggy weather this morning, and it can be dense in spots until 10 in the morning. After 10 in the morning, we're probably going to lose much of the density for most areas. And there's a few asterisks with that, because if you're right by the waterfront, if you're right by the beaches, that's where this fog is coming from. It's literally being generated from the Mississippi Sound, from the Gulf, from our bays, and even from Lake Pontchartrain. So that's where this fog, where's it coming from? Where's the fog coming from? That's where it's coming from, the marine areas. So if you get too close to water this afternoon, you might find yourself with a foggy afternoon in parts of South Mississippi. So you have to make sure on a day like today, you're definitely paying more attention. You're making that extra effort to drive safely across the area. Now, as we take a look at the WLOX weather app forecast, as you see, the hour-by-hour information shows fog for the most of us clearing away as we get into the 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock time frame. And then we can actually take a look outside. I think we have some cam views. Let's take a look at our Biloxi Gulfport cams. Yeah, it's still foggy out there, folks. Looks like our Hancock County cam taking a break right now, but for the Biloxi Gulfport cams, very foggy right now. And if we get a quick reading on those visibility numbers, down to around 2 or 3 miles for the visibility during the 8 o'clock hour. So yeah, really a foggy start to the day for the Mississippi coast. Now we go back to the weather app because I do want to show you that we're not just talking about this morning, but this afternoon that is going to warm up quite a bit. We're looking at highs getting into the 70s later today, feeling more like spring than winter. And then tonight, the fog rolls back quickly. Look at this. By the time we get to 8, 9, or 10 o'clock, we might already be seeing some more of that fog along the coast. I do have a future cast for fog that I do want to draw your attention to. I think it really illustrates the picture very well. So there's a look at where we are this morning. 9 in the morning, we're seeing that orange color that's indicating dense fog impacting parts of coastal Mississippi. So that's why we are under a dense fog advisory. Now we get to after 10 o'clock in the morning, and where do we find most of the fog by that point in time? Let's fast forward just a little bit more. So there's 11 o'clock in the morning. Where's most of the fog? Is it over land areas? Not really. But is it over marine areas, waterfront areas? Yeah. So that's what I'm saying when I say, you know, beach fog might linger later. You can see that that's where the fog is. It's offshore in the Sound and offshore. It's also near the north shore of Lake Pontchartrain as well. Even as we go further into the afternoon, look at this. The fog never goes away. It tries to stay away from land, but if you get too close to the water, you're going to find a foggy afternoon in some parts of the Mississippi coast later today. And all of that fog that is just sitting there by the coast, in the Sound, by the islands, guess what? Once we get to later this evening, it's going to roll right ashore. Watch this as we fast forward from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. It moves inland, right? So that's what we're thinking. By the time we get to 9, 10 o'clock tonight, we're probably going to already see that fog rolling right back ashore. Now, those temperatures, we mentioned the temperatures earlier. We'll talk about them again. That's what we're forecasting today. 73 by the beaches, but not too far from 80 for some of our inland areas. Why is it so warm? Well, when you look at the pattern here, look at this clockwise circulation. Do you see the swirl in the atmosphere right here? That's an upper high. There's a large upper high situated, a ridge of high pressure aloft situated across the Gulf. And when you have an upper ridge sitting on top of you, that already makes it warm. And then we actually have, coming around the edge of it, warm air that's actually coming in from the west and southwest. That clockwise circulation is pulling that warm air in. That's why it's so warm for us heading into this week. That high pressure also is why the weather is so quiet this week, and why we're also seeing so much fog this week too. So it's all kind of connected. With high pressure, you have a very calm, very quiet, very still pattern, and that is one way to help fog to really form and not be disrupted by winds that could help to break apart some of the fog. With marine fog that we're seeing, though, that's actually a different process. When you have relatively warm air coming over the top of relatively cold water, you get this separation because warm air rises, cooler temperatures do not rise, they actually sink. So there's that separation there, and that's literally what generates that fog over the water, that separation. And so when we get that fog developing, it sticks around and can be pretty pesky for your travel plans. But don't worry, things are going to change. We get to the weekend and a powerful cold front comes in. If we mark the location of that front on this map, it'd be located somewhere about here by Sunday. And so that completely turns our temperatures around. We're seeing the cooler air coming in from the northwest. There's going to be a big upper trough. That one is going to be centered. Look for where the counterclockwise winds are. You can see them up here. So that's the big upper low, which is responsible for pushing this front down through the eastern half of the lower 48. You actually have an upper high back here over the southern plains. And so both of those systems, the low with counterclockwise circulation, the high with clockwise circulation, they're both working to pull that cooler air down toward our coast as we head into Sunday. So winter will come back, but first we have to get through this round of spring-like air. And that transition period, that cold front is going to kick up some rain showers. Do you have some plans on Friday? Do you have some plans on Saturday? There are some rain chances, but the good news is that I don't expect them to be continuous. We're focusing on where we see the most red on this chart. And it's red at times on Friday. It's red at times on Saturday. So my thinking here is Friday, maybe you get some lower rain chances on and off in the morning. And then on Saturday, you get some higher rain chances. Friday afternoon, you get some lower rain chances on and off during the PM hours. Not a continuous red, right? It's not just solid red lines, solid through. These are on and off. They're scattered. Even for Friday night into Saturday, they're kind of on and off. Then you get this little red zone right here, Saturday mid-morning through midday. And that's when I think we'll see kind of the final push with the front moving in. And then we'll get to some lower rain chances beyond that. So here's a look at that on the Futurecast. We're stopping the clock Friday afternoon. Friday is going to be a day that is a case of haves and have-nots. If you're in Pascagoula, if you're farther south and east, if I circle that on the map, if you are farther south and east, you're going to see probably fewer showers than areas that are farther north and west, like Poplarville, for example. There's going to be a case of haves and have-nots. On Friday, we're calling about a 60% chance for rain. And I'm telling you, around Pearl River County, y'all are closer to the 60, 70%. But Jackson County, y'all could be closer to the 50, 60%. So there's that separation. The farther east you are, maybe generally the lower your rain chance. The farther west you are, maybe generally the higher your rain chance. Friday could be a day where you're in Pascagoula and you're saying, hey, I thought they said it was going to rain today. Where's all the rain on Friday in Pascagoula? But then on the opposite end, you'll get people in Poplarville saying, whoa, all this rain in Poplarville on Friday, where'd this come from? I mean, they said it was going to rain, but not this much. So a complete separation, I think. There's going to be what we call a gradient in the weather, the haves and have-nots on Friday during the day. Now, this continues into Friday night. Again, just look at that. You just watched basically 6 hours of rain happening very close to Pearl River County, and 6 hours of very light to no rain happening closer to Jackson County. There will be some severe weather risk with this, especially when the front tries to move in. You're seeing the front basically located right there by early Saturday. And I think for our Mississippi coast, this will be our best timing for rain, especially around 3 a.m. Saturday to 6 a.m. Saturday as that front makes its final approach. So there you go with that timing again, looking at 6 in the morning on Saturday and that front finally moving through. And then there we go with 9 a.m. Saturday. And for some of us, the front might have already passed by that point. And so we're going to start to see that rain chance, I think, decreasing by just in time for Saturday afternoon, because here's the front placement by Saturday afternoon. It's already past us, so the air might already start to turn drier. Now, this system is going to kind of slow down, and we might actually see some showers try to sneak in Saturday evening, Saturday night. This is not like a clean front where it's just completely done. So you can see those little sneaky showers Saturday night that might try to roll in. They're very light. They're not heavy. There's no storms. The storm stuff would be ahead of the front. But if we look at Saturday night, this is the front right here. So your storm stuff is over here on the Florida Panhandle, but you might get some little bitty light drizzle, some light rain behind the front, with it being cooler and generally drier Saturday night. Now, this is the last thing I'll show before I go, the severe weather risk. We've been talking about this all week. And the latest update, although this map will change again later today and tonight, so be sure to keep yourself up to date. But we now have a risk of severe weather in South Mississippi. That's the bad news. And that timing would be, like we just showed you, from Friday into Saturday, on and off, those scattered showers and storms, early Saturday morning, basically. But while that's the bad news, the good news is that our level is only a level 1. So we actually have the lowest probability of severe weather, and there's a higher probability closer to Jackson, Vicksburg, Greenville, Starkville, Oxford, Tupelo, Tunica, Natchez, Macomb, and maybe even Hattiesburg. So those areas that are to our north, they have that higher probability of seeing things like tornadoes, large hail, and damaging straight line winds. But on the coast, I think we're just looking at just general scattered showers and storms, and maybe 1 or 2 of them could be on the stronger side. But hopefully no major issues. Hopefully our coast is spared from severe weather, and it will instead target elsewhere away from us. So at least we're not in the bullseye for that. And in your 7-day forecast, you can see that while we do have those higher rain chances at times on Friday, especially Friday night, overnight into early Saturday, and then at times on Saturday, it looks like by the time we get to Saturday night, turning cooler, 45 for the overnight low into Sunday morning. And there's a stretch of afternoons back into the 50s. We actually get some cold mornings too. Next Monday morning could wake up in the cold 30s on the coast, might have near freezing inland. Tuesday morning also looking at cold 30s on the coast with 59 Tuesday afternoon. So some changes as we await winter's return, but until then, on the spring-like side with fog, and then we'll get to that transition with those showers and storms. Well, that'll pretty much do it for today's edition of Waking Up with Wesley. I've been Senior Meteorologist Wesley Williams. I hope that you have a wonderful Wednesday, and we'll see you again next time.
Thank you for watching Waking Up with Wesley with WLOX First Alert Weather Senior Meteorologist Wesley Williams.